Hey warriors, thank you so much for joining the Repair, Restore and Retrain session. We've got an hour in front of us to reclaim our bodies after having babies. So the first thing you need to make sure you have, really important, is some water. It's always handy to keep hydrated. And the second thing as well that is also very important if you do have them, a couple of cans. If you have light weights as well, use light weights. Anything from half a kilo to a kilo is absolutely perfect. And we'll be using these in a little bit. But to start with, let's get going. So we're going to start by sitting on the floor. It's always really important, I think, to start with some breathing exercises because this just gets a bit more of a connection between our heads and what's going on with our diaphragm, our core, and also our pelvic floor. So we're going to sit up nice and tall. Imagine you're being lifted up through the crown of the head. I want to feel like you're just going to grow an extra inch or so. And as well as you're sitting up nice and tall, just try and tuck the chin in so that when you're sitting up nice and straight, there's no arch or strain, especially through that neck area. So have a think about how you're sitting, tuck the chin in, move the head back, because you want to try and get as straight a spine as possible. Have a think as well about what's going on with your feet. Our traditional crossed way of sitting is we always have the ankles crossed over, and what this does, absolutely fine, but what it does is it actually shifts our pelvis slightly over to one side, and as soon as our pelvis is out of line, then that actually impacts our spine. So by making sure that our hips are straight on the ground, and by making sure that you can just see both those ankle bones, then you can make sure that your spine is as straight and as tall as possible. So the first thing we're going to do, again, reaching up nice and tall, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. You can have your hands in your laps or on your knees or wherever you feel is most comfortable for you. And I just want you to start by taking some deep breaths in and out through your nose. As you're doing so, think about relaxing all the way through the muscles of the face. Just have a think where you're holding any tension. But try and slow that breathing down as much as you can. And be conscious of how you're breathing. So notice what's going on with your body as you take that deep breath in. And also what's happening as you breathe out. Is it your shoulders that are moving every single time you breathe in? Is it through the upper parts of your rib? Are you moving through the lower part of your rib cage? Is anything going on with your belly as well? Just be conscious of how everything is working for now. So continue to take those deep breaths in, trying to get as much air into your lungs as you can. And as you breathe out, just try and get as much air out of your lungs as well. Now, as we breathe in, I want you to imagine taking the breath down into the belly. So as you're breathing in, your belly is going to expand out to the front and to the sides. Imagine you're filling up front, sides, and also through the back. Filling up first of all through the belly before you then start expanding through the rib cage. And as you're breathing out, imagine first of all just gathering on the pelvic floor. So as you breathe in, you're breathing into the belly. The belly's moving out to the front side through the backs. And then as soon as you've got as far as you can with that, you then start moving through the ribs. And don't forget, as you're moving through the ribs as well, to also feel the expansion through the back of your body as well. We've actually got quite a lot of lung capacity that come through to the back of the ribs. Keep the muscles around the face nice and still. And we're just going to practice what's known as diaphragmatic breathing. So as you're breathing in, you're filling up through the belly. Then you're really expanding up through the ribs. And as you're breathing out, gathering the pelvic floor from back to front. And imagine you're rolling up a tube of toothpaste starting at the bottom from your pubic bone, rolling up through the stomach, before you then start squeezing through the bottom of your lungs, trying to get as much of the air out of your body as you can. We're going to add in a bit of a timer now. So you should be able to hear that. Often I'm going to ask you to hold your breath, but this time we're just going to take it into box breathing. We're going to breathe in for a count of 4, inhaling, expanding through the belly. You're going to hold the air lightly in your lungs for a count of 4. You're going to breathe out for a count of 4. And very gently, without straining, you're going to hold no air in your lungs for a count of 4. And you're going to continue this cycle, trying to improve wherever you can, either by increasing a count or by trying to make things as easy as possible, so you're straining less with each of the sides of the box. If you feel like starting at 4 is too hard, then take it down to 3. Otherwise, you're going to breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. You're going to hold the air in your lungs and breathe out. And hold no air in your lungs for a count of 4. To continue through this cycle, trying to reduce the effort. Trying to make things as smooth and as flowing as possible. Don't forget as well about gathering in the pelvic floor on your exhale. As well as starting to calm your body, this is also a fantastic exercise just to reconnect you with your body. Trying to get things working a little bit more in sync. It's really important that we start talking with our pelvic floor and getting it connected with our core muscles and breathing as well. So you've got a few more cycles of this. Try and improve wherever you can. So whether that's taking it up a number, so you're doing 5, 5, 5, and 5, or by trying to ensure you need less effort to hold the count. Remember to keep the muscles around the face nice and soft. Think about sitting up nice and straight. Try not to lean too far forwards. And on your next exhale, you're just going to open the eyes and you're going to stretch both arms up towards the ceiling. Take a deep breath in. Sit nice and tall, really reach up as high as you can go. And we're going to take that right elbow into the right leg and we're going to reach all the way over. So we don't need to really go for this as a stretch, but we just want to start opening up through the side of our body. So you can use your elbow in that leg just to give you a little bit of extra traction and just keep breathing. So it's really important in this position that you're not crunching into the lower back, that you're actually feeling like you're lifting and growing through the spine. Good, take a deep breath in. And let's take it over to the other side. The left elbow comes in towards the leg and you're going to stretch all the way over to the other side. So keep those fingers nice and active. These fingers are as much a part of the stretch as what's going on down here. So try and anchor that right thigh in towards the ground and feel like you're stretching through with your fingers to the other side of the room. Remember as well, just to have a bit of a check to make sure our shoulders are in line. Good, deep breath in, and we're going to take it all the way down. A little bit of a neck stretch. So we're just going to let the head hang nice and heavy, and we're going to roll around the neck in little half circles. Good. Take the head up to its original position, and we're going to take the right ear to the right shoulder, making sure you've got a bit of length between the neck and your shoulder. Right hand is just going to come up, and it's gently going to use a little bit of weight just to help increase the stretch. So take this nice and slow, especially if you've got a lot of tension in this area. If you want to intensify this stretch, left hand is going to drive through that heel of the hand. I want you to feel the stretch through. It's going to be a bit of a nerve stretch through that arm as you just take the hand up until it's roughly at shoulder height. So I don't know if any of you ever suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome, but this would have been a fantastic stretch just to ease up through those nerves. Okay, let's swap it over. We're going to release the hand, release the head. We're going to take the left ear over to the left shoulder. Left hand's going to come on and just provide a little bit of an extra stretch. If it feels like it's too much, then don't do it. Drive through the heel of the right hand in towards the ground. And we're going to raise that hand. So you should feel a lovely, lovely stretch through that arm. Good. Make sure you're breathing. And relax the head. We're going to clasp the hands in front of us. And we're just going to stretch out through the back. Good. Make sure you're breathing as well. Nice. Slowly come all the way up. We're going to have the hands on the knees. And I just want you to push the chest forward a little bit. So again, with this one, try and sit up nice and tall. Try not to crunch through that lower part of the back. Good. Stretching out through the upper back and through the chest. We're going to be doing some work today on strengthening through the back muscles and opening up the chest. But first of all, let's take it down onto the floor. You're nice and gentle. Lying down. It's really important to work on glute strength. We use a lot of glute strength during pregnancy. And a really fantastic way of just rebuilding this is through some hip thrusts. So making sure we can just about brush the backs of the heels with the fingers, trying to keep our feet in line with our hips. I just want you to breathe out. As you're breathing out, you're going to curl this pelvis all the way under to start lifting that vertebrae up off the ground one at a time. You don't need to take it up too high. So we often see that people go really crazy and their hips come all the way up. And there's nothing wrong with that. What it can do is put a little bit of extra pressure through the lower back. So you're just going to take it up a small amount. Imagine if you've got your little finger on the top of your hips and your thumbs on your ribs. You want to make sure that when you come up, that you then don't start to spread those fingers wide apart as your hips come all the way up. So you want to try and keep those fingers as close as possible before they start coming up. And that will teach you exactly the optimum height to come up into your hip bridge. So it may not be as high as you think it should be, but everybody is different. So what's important here isn't about the height of the hips, but it's just about how you're squeezing through your glutes, you're driving through your heels, and you're working those legs at the same time. So you can either have your hands on your hips, you can place them down by the side. But we just want to take it up nice and slow, rolling through the vertebrae, up and down. This is a really nice one for trying to activate our glute muscles. We often lose connection with our glutes. And so this just helps get that connection back and starts to build up the muscle. Okay, we've got 3 more. 3, 2, and 1. I want you to hold it up here, and we're just going to pulse up and down. Little tiny pulses. Think about squeezing those glutes together as you go. Good. 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're going to hold the bum up in the air. And I just want you to try doing quick little squeezes of the pelvic floor. Imagine you're gathering in the pelvic floor from back to front and remembering to release between each squeeze. It's really important to try focusing on different types of pelvic floor squeezes. So you shouldn't be squeezing through the bum. Your bum shouldn't be clenching and releasing. It's just that pelvic floor. We'll try and do another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come all the way down. This time, you're going to come all the way up, and we're going to take the heels off the ground. If you need to shuffle your feet a bit closer in to make it more comfortable, then do. Otherwise, the heels just raise off the ground. And from here, we're not going to move the bum, but we're going to move these knees. So I'm going to shuffle over so you can see. Just going to squeeze those knees inwards. It's a small, small movement. You're just squeezing them in, 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 in. You're working these insides of the legs. Just squeezing, 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 squeezing. Good. So we're working the insides of our legs now. As well as being a glute exercise, there's actually a full leg exercise. And plus, with the heels off the ground, we're really stretching and working through those feet as well. And we've got 4, 3, 2, 1. Squeeze and hold as much as you can. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. You should feel the inner thighs burning now. Hold this here for 6. Make sure you're breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Come down and release. So keeping those heels off the ground, I just want us to take it up into gentle hip thrusts again. Taking it down and up. This time we're also working through the foot muscles, and we're slightly changing the leg muscles that we're working on this. So even though we're still working broadly the glutes and the legs, it's just got a slightly different focus. Good. Remember not to let your knees splay out. It's really common. I see this a lot in our group sessions, that when you take the bum up off the ground, your knees start widening. We don't want that to happen. So let's go. We have got 4, 3, 2, and 1. You're going to hold this all the way up. I'm going to shift over so you can see. And from here, I just want you to take the legs out to the side. So it's tiny little pulses, but this time the knees are moving away from each other. So little pulses, squeezing through the glutes. Good, make sure you're breathing. Make sure you're holding your glutes nice and tight. We don't need to do anything with the pelvic floor at this time. And we've got another 4, 3, 2, and 1. Get the knees back together, and we're going to go roll all the way down. From here, we're just going to do some breathing exercises and get the pelvic floor involved as well. So as you take a deep breath in, you're going to fill up through the belly. And as you breathe out, I just want you to hold a pelvic floor contraction, gathering it in from back to front for the length of your exhale. As you breathe in, relax everything fully, release the pelvic floor. And as you breathe out, gather it in from back to front. And just gently hold that pelvic floor activation for the length of your exhale. Deep breath in. And as you breathe out, gather in the pelvic floor from back to front. Good. Got a couple more now. Take a deep breath in. Gather it in from back to front. Imagine you're lifting those muscles up through the body, a bit like a drawstring purse that you're gathering together and pulling up through the body. Good. Take a deep breath in and relax. Got 2 more. You're going to breathe out. Gather in the pelvic floor from back to front. Last deep breath in. And deep breath out. Light gathering into the pelvic floor and a gentle hold here. Good. Deep breath in. From here, let's just stretch out these knees. So we're going to take one knee first of all into our chest, and we're going to hug it nice and tight. And then let's take the left knee in, and we're going to hug it nice and tight. From here, whilst we're here, let's just circle through these feet. Doesn't matter how you're circling. Just try and make as big circles as possible, rolling through these ankles. And let's change directions. Good. So we're now going to take it into some core work. So we're not focusing on your traditional exercises that work your abs muscles. We're actually going to focus more on what's known as a TVA, the transverse abdominis, which sits all the way around your body, a bit like a corset. And it's this which is responsible for helping reduce and close up any diastasis, as well as giving you the absolute foundation for core strength. First thing we want to do is you just want to make sure that we can activate this. So you take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, gather in the pelvic floor. And I also need to feel, as you gather in that pelvic floor, you might also feel a little bit of activation just underneath your belly button. The same time you do this, as you're breathing out, you might also feel that your lower back is pressing down against the floor. So I don't want this to be a really focused movement where you're really straining to get that lower back down to the ground. I just need you to be mindful of what's going on with your body. If you have 2 fingers and place them on your hips and take both fingers in towards each other a couple of inches and down, and try the exercise again. We were breathing in and breathing out, gathering in the pelvic floor and gently feeling like your back is pressing towards the ground. You should feel a little bit of a tension happening underneath those fingers. That is our core activation. If you can't feel this right now, then don't worry, I promise you it will come. It just can be a little bit hard to feel that activation, especially if you've had a C-section. So from here, you should be able, and what we want to focus on is by connecting through those core muscles and being able to continue with that connection whilst we're doing other exercises. So imagine keeping that connection, and we just want to take one foot up off the ground, keeping our knee at right angle. As we breathe out, we're going to slowly drop it back down to the ground. And we're going to change over through the legs. Take a deep breath in as the knee comes up. And as we breathe out, we're going to be very conscious of what's going on through these core muscles. What we're looking out for is to make sure that we're not experiencing any bulging where the stomach muscles come up, or any doming where it comes up into a bit of a point. So if you notice any of that, then please do sit out for this exercise and make sure you message me. But really important when you're doing these exercises, you're taking a deep breath in as the knee comes up, and you're breathing out nice and slow, taking that foot down to the ground. Now, for those of you that are really used to doing quite a lot of high impact activity, you might feel like this is a waste of time, but do not skimp it. It's a really, really important exercise to do to focus on strengthening through these lower core muscles especially. And what's really important as well, it's not just the action of taking one leg off the ground and dropping it down towards the floor. It's actually that moment where you have to switch over the legs. That's one of the most important parts of this exercise. You want to try and keep your hips as still and as steady as you can. So for those of you who think that you can do this quite comfortably, we're going to take it up a level, and we're going to take one foot off the ground and then the other. Keep the hands on the ground. They're there to help steady us and give us some stability. And from here, you're going to take one foot down towards the ground. You're breathing out as you do so. As soon as you feel like it gets too much for your stomach, or if it feels like your back is coming up off the floor, then you know that you've reached your limit, and you're going to take your foot back up again. So as you're breathing out and dropping the foot back down towards the ground, as soon as you feel like you're losing any tension or your stomach muscles are popping up or coming into a dome, then take it all the way back up. So this is one to be done really slowly. The slower you do it, the harder it is. So for me, I know that I can only do a few full reps, and that when I'm taking my foot down, for me to do it comfortably, this is roughly where I can get to. Because it does take a lot of core strength to do these exercises, to make sure you're using your breath at the same time. If you experience any doming during this exercise, then don't do this. If you experience any bulging, then don't do this. Make sure you're not holding your breath either. And if you are experiencing any doming, it's always worth taking a booking an appointment in with a women's health physio. Okay, so we can do one more. Good, take it all the way in. We're going to take both knees in towards the chest, and we're going to roll through the base of the spine. For those of you that might have found that one quite challenging, if you want to message me, I can give you some alternatives or some advice for that as well. If you're worried about diastasis, which is what's known as stomach muscle separation, and you can tell that if you've got a bit of doming, or there's some other symptoms as well that come with that as well. But if you think you might have had it, or if you haven't had a check, then do message me and I can help you out with that. So pull the knees in towards the chest. Let's have a little roll around the base of the spine. First one way and the other. Okay, so we're going to take it up and off the ground right now. So let's roll over to one side and let's take it up. So for this bit, hurrah, you can see me. We're going to start working on some pelvic mobility. Why? Because our pelvis is the base of what happens with our spine, and it basically, if we don't have a properly sort of mobile, strong pelvis, then it can affect our shoulders, it can affect our knees and everything else. So we're just going to start mobilizing this. Got the hands on the hips. I'll turn sideways so you can see. Slight bend in the knees. We're just going to do some little pelvic tilts backwards and forwards. There's no need to try and take this to the end of your range and to really push through it. We're just warming up through that lower spine. Good. Keep going. Good work. And from here, I'm just going to take it side to side. So we're going to lift up through the legs as we go. Just keeping the tops of the shoulders nice and straight. Good. Taking it from side to side. Make sure when we're doing this that we're not looking out the legs. Have a slight bend in the knees throughout. Great. And little hip circles. Again, we don't need to take this to the extreme. We're just mobilizing and getting our spine moving a bit more freely. Now it's time to show our pelvis and our lower back a bit of love. I'm going to take the feet slightly wider than hip width apart. I want you to turn the toes in slightly. I want you to imagine you're pressing the knees towards each other and behind. At the same time, you're going to be pressing down through the outside of those feet. This creates what's known as a lemnis gait, and it actually gives you a lot of strength and stability through the lower part of your body, which is exactly what we need, because we can take the arms up, and we're just going to shift the top part of our body over to the right. Good. So we're sliding through the lower part of the spine. Make sure that your lower half of the body is super, super still. Good. And we'll take it over to the other side. So this is a really interesting exercise. What I've noticed is that the first time people do this, they're a bit like, oh my goodness, this is so hard. And their sort of bottom half is uncontrollably moving. But after a while, you do get to grips with it. And let's take it over from one side to the other. And what it does do, it's a real great test of what's known as proprioception, which is, can you basically give your body commands, and will your body do it? Instead of understanding a bit more to do with body awareness. Good work. So we're going to take it into little side bends now. So again, the bottom half of your body is going to stay nice and still. And we're just now working through the top of the spine. So we don't often work sideways with our spine. And that's why this is such a lovely exercise to get things moving and working more freely. Good. Let's take it over to the other side. So our spine, even though it's our backbone and everything kind of comes off it, it can be a real big source of weakness. And so making sure we've got mobility through here and strength in the surrounding muscles is really important. And actually by working on exercises like this, we're increasing the blood flow to the spinal cord and in and around it. Let's take it now from side to side. Keep those legs nice and still. This isn't a test of how far down you can get this stretch. It's just to warm things up and to make sure we understand how our body is working a little bit more. Okay, so we've got our last one. Great stuff. Let's get into some marching. Now, when we're doing our marching, I want you to keep the toes on the ground for now. Hips are going to be nice and steady. So we don't want to have too much of a sway from side to side. This isn't sexy dancing. We're just going to get the knees moving. Good. If you feel like you've got that under control, we're now going to ramp it up a bit. By ramp it up, I mean we're going to make it more confusing. So now as the foot comes forward, the other toe is going to come off the ground. So we've got a bit of a seesaw effect, where you push down on the toe and the other toe is coming up. This is really nice, just for getting a bit of mobility through the legs, also working on that brain again. So as parents, I'm sure as you realize, you feel like you might be losing some brain cells. And this just helps sharpen up your mind a little bit more. Okay, so if we've got that one working, we're now going to take the arms out in front of us. As we take the arms out in front of us, I want you to drive forward through the heel of your hands, and you're going to externally rotate the thumbs. You're going to rotate the thumbs out to the side. Pull the fingers back as well, and we're just going to get a real nice stretch through the muscles. So this is also known as a fascial stretch, myofascial stretch. It's super, super important as well. So great that we're taking the arms forward, but also think about taking them back. So you want to get full range of movement through the shoulders, going backwards and forwards. This is our warm-up. Okay, so we can speed it up. Keep those feet moving. Don't forget about pulling those toes back and those fingers. Good. Now we're going to take it out to the side. So front and side, front and side, front and side, front and side, front and side. Let's go now. Front, side, and up. Front, side, and up. Front, side, and up. Let's make it even faster. Side and up. Front, side, and up. Last couple of ones. And front, side, and up. Take the arms down into a cactus position. And we're going to do opposite arm to opposite knee. So try and make this as controlled as you can. It's important as well. We've done the spine from lots of different angles and sides and different sections. And we're now working through some rotation as well. Good work. 3, 2, and 1. Standing, the feet slightly further apart. Now imagine you've been punched in the stomach. So as punch in the stomach, your knees go forward and your back bends over. From here, it's going to roll all the way up. Head being the last thing to come up. You're going to punch in the stomach again. And you're going to roll all the way up. Let's go. Do another couple of these. Again, we're working the spine through different movements. And this is the last one. Good. So let's roll the shoulders forwards. And let's roll the shoulders back. We'll take it up into a quick warm-up before we start. First thing, we'll take it into little barn doors. So nice and controlled. Keep your hands up. Trying to get a little bit of movement through the hips. So you might feel like your hips feeling a little bit unstable at the time. If that's so for this exercise, then don't take it up so high. If that still feels the case, then don't do this exercise at all. We're just trying to get a bit more movement around the hips. Good. And from here, we'll just start taking it up to the sides, getting in a bit of a stretch and a little bit of a movement. We can take it down now, little mini squat, as we then stretch up and over. Make sure you've got your cans ready. Okay, arms are going to come now, sweeping across the body. We're getting a bit more of a spinal twist in. If it feels like it's too much, especially if you've got a C-section, then just take it into a less of a twist and take the arm more out in front of you. Otherwise, you can take it all the way around. Make sure you're breathing as you go. Stop if you feel any kind of pain. 3, 2, and 1. Nice, let's take it down. We've got a mini squat here. Just going to do some little walks over to one side. Good, we're firing up our glutes for movement. And at any time during this session, you find that your little one just doesn't want to play ball, there's some exercises that I can take you through to do with that. The first one that you can do is, if you have your baby and you've got a sofa nearby, imagine this pillow as my baby. You're going to hold your baby nice and tight. You're going to sit down and stand back up. So you've got sitting squats, sitting down and up again. That is your first exercise if your baby isn't playing ball and you need to hold them. Next exercise that you're going to do, so I'm going to give you 2 exercises to do if your baby isn't doing what they're supposed to. So you're going to have a nice bend in that standing leg, gentle bend, and you're just going to tap the foot out to one side. If you feel like you can balance properly and you're not putting yourself or your baby in danger, then you can take the foot off the ground. This all depends on how wiggly your baby is. You're going to do some side leg lifts to one side, and then you're going to transfer your weight over to the other side and take the other leg up. Otherwise, grab your cans and let's get started. So, going to get our timer going. Okay, so we've got a certain series of exercises. As I said, we're going to go and work through the back muscles. Grab your amazing cans of beans or chickpeas or whatever you have, and let's get working. We're going to do 45 seconds on each exercise before we then start taking it. 45 seconds on each exercise before we change over. So the first one, can't read any of this. We're going to take it into pull down squat. So we're going to take it into a closed stance squat. So our feet are going to be roughly hip width apart. Hands are going to come up. And as we come down into our mini squat, we're just going to drive those elbows down, squeezing through the shoulder blades. So I'll come onto the side. So we're not coming down too low for this. We're just coming down into a bit of a mini squat, pulling these elbows down, squeezing those shoulder blades together. So it's really important when you're doing this to try and keep that back nice and long and nice and straight. What you don't want to do is to start overarching, sticking your bum out. So try and keep everything nice and long. We're going to work through the shoulders. Go. We've got another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. From here, slight bend to the knees. We're going to come all the way over, and we're just going to row backwards. We've got some bent over rows. So this one requires a decent amount of core strength and being able to activate through those core muscles. We're going to pull the elbows up. Good. Pull those elbows, squeeze those shoulder blades together. Nice. We're working on strengthening all those muscles through the back. We often find ourselves hunching over, especially if we're feeding, whether we're breastfeeding or bottle feeding, whether we're sitting down watching Netflix, or even at our computer. So by opening up through the chest and strengthening through the back, this is really going to help. Okay, next one in the sequence, we're going to take this into a slightly wider squat. And you're going to come down, and we're going to bear hug in and out. So imagine you're giving yourself a really, really big hug. Good. If this feels like it's too much, and as you're doing this exercise, if you experience any leaking, if you experience any heaviness down through the pelvis, then take your feet closer together. And it's also really important as well, just drop me a message, or I can introduce you to a women's health physio as well. So squeezing together and opening, squeezing and opening. Again, we're working our shoulder muscles. We're also working through the back. It's really important to have good, strong shoulders. Shoulders are not meant to carry lots of load, unlike our legs. So it's really important to strengthen them. Good. Got the last one. Now left leg is going to come forwards. Right foot is going to come back. We've got the heel off the ground. Both hands are up above the head. And we're going to come down and up. So we've got triceps that we're working on now. And we've also included some leg strength in here. I always think it's such a shame if you don't maximize your exercises. So this is why I always try and do exercises that include both arms and legs. If this feels like it's too much, then get rid of the weights, or you can just focus on legs or just arms. Got another 10 seconds here, and then we're going to swap over sides. Make sure you're focusing on your breathing. Try not to hold your breath at any time. And we've got one more. Good, let's take it over to the side. The right foot is coming forward, the back heel is coming off the ground. Arms up above, and we need straight back into it. We've got another 45 seconds. So try and keep 90 degrees in the knees as you come down and up. Make sure you're sinking down the center. Make sure you're trying to keep those elbows as close together as you can. Keep going. If you're using weights for this and they're getting a bit heavy, just drop them down or just use one weight. Good. Showing our arms and our legs a bit of love at this time. Good, take things nice and steady. Keep things nice and controlled and try and avoid any jerky movements. From here, we're going to take it into a side lunge. So, keep the weights in front of you just for now. We're going to take it from one side to the other. So we're pivoting off that central leg and we're bending down into it. Good work. Coming down to either side. This is also really nice because it warms up our hips, it strengthens through that area, and it also gives us a nice little stretch. There's no need to take it down too far. Think about pushing up off the foot as you come back up to standing. Good. For the last couple of seconds, if you want to, you can take the weights out in front of you. So imagine you're passing your baby, handing them over to someone. Take them, take them. So breathe out as you hand them over. Breathe in as you take them back. And you've got 3, 2, and 1. Last exercise. We're going to have our left leg as our base. I'm just going to tilt the camera so you can see it a bit better. This is my base. You're going to squeeze those cans together as much as you can, or your weights together as much as you can. It's going to help activate through your core. You're going to take the foot to the front, to the side, and to the back, then back to the side and the front. And we're just going to keep doing this. So try and keep your hips nice and steady. It's going to tap first front, side, and then back. So it's your standing leg that's doing a lot of the work right now. So focus on your breathing. This is also working your core. This is great because our feet, again, are really strengthening up through this exercise. And we're going to swap over legs. So base the right one, anchor it down, toes coming out to the front, to the side, and to the back. Point your toe to pretend we're ballet dancers. By pressing the weights together as well, you're actually going to stabilize your core even more. That gives you a bit more of extra core connection. Good. Focus on your breathing. The more wild movements you make with your legs, the more your core has got to work. What we want to do is to try and keep everything as stable as we can. This is the last exercise in this rep before we take it into those squats with the pull down. So we've got 3, 2, and 1. Good. Take it into our pull down. Oh my God, my head's chopped off. All right, let's go. Take it into our pull down squats for 45 seconds. So we're coming down and up. We can take the feet quite nice and close together. Again, we want to make sure that we're driving through our bum in a way. As we're coming down, we've got the weight in our heels. Good, making sure that the knees are tracking over our foot. Nice. Make sure we're breathing. If at any point you notice any heaviness through the pelvis, then stop. This exercise isn't quite right for you. Squeeze through the backs of the shoulder blades. Got 3, 2, and 1. Let's come down, slight hinge through the hips, and we're going to row all the way back. So this is where you can get your breath back. You're just going to focus on the breathing. We're opening up through the chest. We're driving these elbows straight up, squeezing those shoulder blades tight together. Make sure you're breathing out and in. If you do want to use heavier weights, then you can grab a tote bag, fill it up with some cans, and you can hold the straps and do the weight that way. But this is really good just for getting the movement. We're also working our core strength at the same time here. From here, we're going to take it into our wide sumo squats with our bear hugs in 3, 2, and 1. Coming down nice and low. And we've got these big bear hugs. So if you're holding the weights, what you might notice is that if you fling your hands too much or it's not a controlled movement, you're more likely to be in danger of injuring yourself. So try and focus on really nice controlled movements. If you feel like, again, you've got any heaviness through the pelvis or you're experiencing any leaking, and take those feet closer together. Don't take it down so low, and make sure you book an appointment with your GP or your women's health physio. Got 10 more seconds. We're going to take it into our triceps and static lunges. 3, 2, and 1. Left leg in front. Right foot is going to have the heel off the ground. Both arms up. And we're going to take it down and up. So make sure your feet are far enough apart that you can roughly get a right angle dip as you come down. So squeeze those elbows together as well, so that you are isolating more work through your triceps. Got 30 seconds left. Focus on your balance. Focus on your breathing. Good. Take it nice and steady. Really nice. And we've got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good work. Take it over to the other side now. Right foot forwards, back heel off the ground. Let's go straight into it. Coming down and up. Good. If it feels like it's too much, then either just focus on the arms or the legs, but keep moving. What do you think of my leggings? I got them from a company called Ilu, spelled I-L-U, and I really like them because they're so soft and they're seamless. But yeah, loving their stuff at the moment. Keep going. Plus, we're all kind of like nice and summery. I feel like it's really hippie with their sort of tie-dye look. Okay, let's go. Good, just over 10 seconds, enough waffle. Focus on the breathing, focus on your balance. Think about what's going on with the arms. Squeeze those elbows in together for the last 3, 2, and 1. Now we're going to take it out to the side. Side lunges. So we're alternating from side to side. Focus on pushing up through that leg and making sure that you're not locking out your standing leg. Good. Once you're ready, as you come down into it, take the cans out in front of you. If you've got a heavier weight, then please do go for it and use it, but don't go too heavy, because the further away we take the weight from our body, the more our core has to work. And it's really important that we've got a strong enough core to be able to deal with this kind of an exercise. So you're breathing out and in. The aim of the game is to make ourselves stronger, not weaker. Got the last one. Nice. Last exercise, slight bend in your standing leg, and we're going to tap forwards, to the side, and back. Forwards, side, and back. If you want to get rid of your weights at this stage, you can. And what you might find useful is just to press your feet together, your hands together, in a bit of a prayer, and think out this light beam. So the more you press your hands together, you'll actually realize that this helps stabilize your core, and you should feel more of a core connection down your front. Good work. Slight bend in that standing leg. Try and keep the rest of you really nice and steady. Got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Straight into it on the other side. Taking it forward, to the side, and back. Side, forward. Your upper part of your body and your leg should stay absolutely stock still. Nothing else should be moving apart from this leg going from side to side. Keep pressing those hands together. Keep the core connection. Make sure you're breathing. If you feel like it's too easy, you can intensify by bending that standing leg just a few more inches. Sink down deeper into it. Work that leg even more. Got 15 seconds left. Keep going. Focus on your breathing. Good. Tap, tap, tap. Nice. We're strengthening up through the hips right now. We're also working on stability. For 3, 2, and 1. Good work. So before we take it into a little bit of a stretch, we're just going to cool down. A little bit of marching on the spot, picking up those knees. Good. Really nice. We'll also stretch a little bit through those hips. Good work. We're going to take both arms up above the head. We're going to clasp our hands, take them behind our head. And we're just going to sort of take a little bend over to one side. So similar to the exercise we did before, we're just stretching through that upper back. Good. And we'll take it into a little bit of rotational work as well. So we're going to twist a little bit through the spines, and we're just going to ease off through the hips. So you should feel a gentle release through the hips You're keeping them moving. And we're just going to start slowing down your heart rate. 3, 2, and 1. Good work. Hands going to come across. You're going to make sure the shoulder is kept nice and down. You're going to use your other hand gently to draw across and stretch through that muscle. Again, you can do the little mummy swing from side to side. Don't know how many of you do this. I still do this, and my youngest one is like almost 2. Little side to side. Let's get these hips moving. Cool, and over to the other side. Good, just gently release through the hips. For those of you who do often stand with one hip sticking out, just try and notice which hip you often lean towards, and then try and use the other side as much as possible. Okay, take both arms up, and we're going to stretch through the triceps. So grab hold of the elbow, have the other hand down just below the base of your neck, and you're going to stretch up through this muscle here. It's really common when you're holding babies, you're going to hold them, be sort of jutting everything out through one hip. And what this often does is you mean that you look through your standing leg, which is never good for your joints. But it also means that you end up with tightness on one side more so than the other. So the ideal is to try and keep your hips nice and central when you're picking babies up. But I also appreciate, because I'm a mum and I still definitely do it, but it's so much easier sometimes to look through the joint and just thrust this hip out. But do try, if you are going to do that, then just do try and compensate on the other side as well. Okay, so let's take this knee up. We're going to hug it in nice and tight, and we're going to roll through the ankle. Take full movements. First one way, and then the other. Good. From here, without putting that foot down towards the ground, we're just going to grab the foot. We're going to squeeze those knees together, stand up nice and tall. And I just want you to do a little bit of a pelvic tilt. So imagine you're pulling your pubis bone up. What you should feel immediately is that gives you a bit of a stretch down the front of your thighs. Stand up nice and tall. Good, and let's change over. So hug the left knee in towards the chest. Make sure your standing leg isn't locked out. And we're going to circle through these ankles. First one way. Good, and then the other. From here, without putting that foot down if you can, I'm just going to squeeze the knees in nice and tight. You're going to grab that left foot, stand up nice and tall, and we're going to just tilt that pelvis under slightly. Good, so you should feel a real nice stretch just through the front of the thigh. Squeeze, 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 and hold, hold, hold. And last but not least, you're going to take the feet as wide as you feel comfortable, and take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in. You're going to swing these arms up above your head, and as you breathe out, just breathe out any stresses and worries that you have. Take a deep breath in. Breathe in hope, confidence, happiness for the fact that you've done a workout, and as you breathe out, just get rid of all the tiredness, stresses, pains, and worries. Let's do a couple more of these. And the last one. You can take it all the way up. You're going to stand up, clasp the hands together, take them all the way down to your center. And before you give yourselves a round of applause, I just want you to take a moment to give thanks to your body, because it is amazing and it is getting stronger, and to be grateful for all that you have, because you have a lot, you are rich, and it is precious. So hug those loved ones as tight as you can to them. And if you're not sort of fortunate enough to be right next to them or with them, then tell them how much you love them, because these people are precious. Now give yourselves a massive round of applause. You have been fantastic. And if you do have any issues, or you notice something wasn't quite right, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Message me on the Warrior Live WhatsApp. You've also got Neve in there, who is the Women's Health Physio. if you do have any questions, then you can just give her a shout as well. Otherwise, I really look forward to seeing you guys next week.